Okay, great. I'll call this meeting to order, April 28th Regional Council meeting. Just welcoming everybody in the gallery today. Nice to see some faces there. And we acknowledge that the Northern Rockies Administration Center is located in the heart of the traditional territory of the Dene, Cree, and Denesaw people of Fort Nelson and Prophet River First Nation. We further recognize the rights provided by our treaty and also celebrate the contributions and the enduring presence of the Métis people in our region. Please be advised that tonight's meeting is available for the public to attend virtually, is being streamed and recorded. And before we start tonight's agenda, I would just like to take a moment on behalf of Mayor, Council, and staff to express our deepest condolences to our community members who have been impacted by the unthinkable act of violence at the Filipino celebration in Vancouver this past weekend. Please know our hearts are with you during this incredibly difficult time. Okay, I have one addition. I sent out an email earlier just to give everybody a heads up. And so it's the Garcia letter, and we'll put it 9.1 under new business, but it will just be for information. And as I said in my email that it'll be on the next meeting agenda for discussion. And CAO, are there any additions? No. Any other council additions? Okay, seeing none. Are there any comments from the public? Okay, I'm looking for adoption of the agenda. Councillor Andrews, seconded by Councillor Enax. All in favor? Motion carries. And we're looking at adoption of minutes for the special regional council meeting of April 9th, the regional council meeting April 14th, special regional council meeting April 22nd.
So moved.
By Councillor Roper, seconded by Councillor Enax. All in favor? Motion carries. Is there any business arising from the minutes? Seeing none, we'll just truck right along to 7.1, Administration Report 24 of 25, Re-Campaign 911. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This report introduces MAD's Campaign 911 signage program, which focuses on installing report impaired drivers signs throughout northern communities. Representatives approached staff earlier this year to discuss the initiative, which aims to increase community safety by encouraging residents to report suspected impaired driving. The proposal is consistent with council strategies and is fully funded. Therefore, it poses no financial implications to the NRM. And today we're seeking council support and collaboration on the program and further signage installation throughout the community.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Open for discussion. Councillor Souls.
I was just curious if it's not a habit of our residents to report people that are impaired driving. I don't know, maybe I've done that. Has anyone else?
I think he meant reporting, but good one. Okay. Any other discussion? Councillor Roper?
I think it's a great initiative, and it just shows that we're all kind of looking out for each other. So without any financial implications, as long as the signs meet within our standards and bylaws, I have no problem with this.
Okay. Is anyone willing to make Councillor Souls?
I just thought of the song Sign Everywhere, a sign blocking out the scenery, breaking my mind. Yeah.
Thank you. Did you want to add the tune there? Or?
If you want.
Or I could ask for maybe a motion to. Oh, Councillor Andrews, please take it away.
I'd like to make a motion that council support MAD's Campaign 911 signage program through the installation of report impaired driver signage throughout the community.
Is there a second? Councillor Enax, any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Motion carries.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, taking us to report 25, the grant application to UBCM's Community Emergency Preparedness Fund. Mr. Cavalier,
Deputy Mayor, Council. I'm here looking for a resolution for grant application to UBCM. This application specifically will deal with some issues that we experienced last year during the evacuation around coordinated communications. So the intent here will probably be to hire a consultant to help us with some template work and enhancing some of our website design so that in the unlikely event that we evacuate again, our team is better prepared to send out some consistent messaging. So a little bit of help for that team is much needed.
great, thank you. Okay. Does council have any questions? Go ahead, Councillor Souls.
I think this is a great idea to have the funding to keep the conversation going and to prepare and to look at some of the preparation, but some things that are specific to preparation that I think should form part of the conversation. The Highway 77 last year was shut down 3 or 4 different times and for a fairly extended period of time, simply because the trees along the side of the highway reached the highway. Like, come on, we can fix that. The conversation needs to get to the point where we're talking about evacuation preparedness. Why isn't the province talking about evacuation preparedness in creating or enhancing the existing right-of-ways so that you don't have that as a potential barrier? That's just silly. And if you notice that even driving around Fort Nelson proper and the BC Hydro work that was done to sort of tidy up some power line right-of-ways, sort of, the early right-of-ways, you can see where that they were a lot wider than what we now have. Most of the trees that are falling on that have potential to fall on the power lines are inside of, they're not part of the virgin forest, they're part of the original clearing that was allowed to grow back and not managed in the beginning. So we have most of our rural roads and some of our power lines along the highways, the highway south, is compromised by the right-of-way width that used to be wider than it is now because it's grown in. So I think that is part of a conversation that we should be having with the province. You need to go for a drive just to look at a community that did lobby successfully and get something done. Drive into Mackenzie from the Hart Highway, and you'll see that they cleared a fairly wide right-of-way for the purpose of not having their highway blocked for any reason. So I think this is pretty simple. I'd like to see that be part of the conversation.
Thank you. Did you want to respond to Councillor Souls, or the mayor is up next? But okay, go ahead, Mayor.
Thank you very much. I agree with Danny with respect to the wider discussion, with the province. But with respect to this particular report, I also agree with it. I think anytime we can train ourselves and understand our ability to communicate all around with the folks that are here, the folks that are away, the folks that the government agencies that are responsible. I think that's a good thing. So I can support this applying for this. It does talk about crisis communication training for staff. I would add council to that as well. If we're going to do any crisis communication workshops, training, then I think council should be involved in that. So that'd be the only change that I'd make to this recommendation.
Okay, great point. Thanks, Mayor. Any other discussion? Okay, anybody, Councillor Souls?
I make a recommendation that a grant application be submitted to the Union of BC Municipalities Community Emergency Preparedness Fund, Public Notification and Evacuation Route Planning to fund 100% of the costs up to 40 grand for the development of crisis communication tools and crisis communication training for staff and council.
I'll second that.
Okay, seconded by Mayor. Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Great, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Terry. Okay, taking us to report number 26. The RETI program 2025 Q1 update.
Lisa's on if there's any questions, but ultimately the report is for council's information, just as a update on the disbursements through the recruitment training, the recruitment, retention, education, and training incentive program.
Great. I don't have a question on the report, but I do have a question. So does anybody have a question on the report before okay, Councillor Andrews?
Just on the presentation of the report, I really like getting it. If we could, I went back and found it, but have what our budget was listed would be
Budget
nice.
versus actuals.
Yeah.
Good suggestion. And my question is, have we found out whether the Northern Health bonus for registered nurses has continued?
That I don't know, but I am meeting with the HSA this week and Thursday, so I'll be part of the conversation. I can circle back and answer that for council on a future date.
Okay, yeah, because we were then going, if it was continuing, we were maybe going to reevaluate that and maybe put that into another area of concern. So you'll bring that back?
I will so, yes.
Okay. Perfect. So that's just for information. Does that answer everybody's questions? Anything further on that? Okay. So, say correspondence and information. So for discussion 8.1, letter from Cliff Livingston, American flag at the Recreation Center. Open for discussion, should there be any.
I noticed that we live along the Alaska Highway. Last I checked, Alaska was still part of the US, and many of our travelers are part of the US, and we want them to continue traveling. And so I think that the emotional approach would be to take it down. And there's a lot of emotional people in the world, and that's okay. But I don't think that it makes very good sense, and it doesn't send a very good message as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other discussion? Oh, Mayor?
Thank you. And so I would just also agree with Councillor Souls that, I think a lot of our American friends coming through here, whether they're tourists, whether they're truckers, or whether they're American military traveling back and forth, I think we want them to come. We want them to spend some money here and spend some more money here. And, when push comes to shove, if we took the flag down, those folks wouldn't notice anyway. So, because they wouldn't have been here before, so they wouldn't have known that it was up. So, I think it's counterproductive. I think that the vast majority of people in the United States, appreciate seeing their flag. They see it as a welcoming opportunity. And, I couldn't vote in favor of taking those flags down. In fact, I think I'd like to see a bigger one up, just to really send that message home. When I spoke to the governor of Alaska here recently, we had a good conversation about the fact that not only are Americans coming through here to go there, but Canadians are coming through here to go up there and work with them in the military. And we've got, many Canadians in Alaska working side by side with the American military on the NORAD project. And so, I sure would like to just leave them up there. I think it sends a good message. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Andrews?
Yeah, I'd just also like to add that there's been many times in Canadian history where we haven't, as the people, agreed with what the federal government or the provincial governments are doing. And it's not always the American people making these decisions. So I don't think we should shun them all because of the government at the time.
Great. Just Scott, did you have something?
I wanted to add, and I appreciate the direction or council's opinion on this, because as staff, we're working with, obviously, with the VIC and also tourism, BC Tourism, around the American, US American citizen piece and travel on the highway. And quite frankly, tourism is a strategic priority of council, and brings in new funds to this community. And in the absence of that direction, we'd be just guessing as staff, of course, because there's lots of other opinions out there. But what we are working in the background is working with the VIC and tourism around, I guess, to the mayor's point, around welcoming those individuals, so that group into community and on the highway, and actually getting some feedback through the visitor center around the appreciation from some of those tourists around the fact that they're feeling welcome, right?
Right,
Which is good. And to Councilor Andrews' point, it's some political stuff that's going on out there, but they're glad that as a community we're not getting caught up in that piece.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Okay, so great discussion. Thanks. We ready to move on? Does anything further? Nope, good. Okay, we will leave it as is then. 8.2 is the mayor's discretionary charges, of which there are none. So good job, Mayor. 9, new business, taking us to 9.1, the Garcia letter that you all have a copy. So if you could do your research over the next 2 weeks and be prepared to make a decision on that at the next council meeting, that would be great. They are waiting for that letter. And that's taking us to councillor reports. Councillor Enochs.
April 16th, I attended the Northeast Destination Development Meeting. And on the 19th, I helped out at the Rotary Easter Pancake Breakfast. And we had a Fort St. John Rotarian, Bruce, on his way down from Liard, Hot Springs, knew it was going on. He popped in and helped us from beginning to end. So that was great. And the 24th, Mr. Dave Ritchie finally took me on a tour of the rec center.
Oh, isn't it amazing?
It's amazing. We went up to the penthouse and to the basement.
Right.
All those years of coordinating for hockey, I don't know how many times I heard people say, "Where is the rec staff? They're nowhere around when you need them." I think all of our residents need to have a tour of that rec center because it would blow them away, the work that is required. And that takes them to the basement and not top. Yeah, it was pretty impressive. It was like an hour and a half we cruised around there. So I'd like to thank Dave for that. And then, of course, the 25th, we attended Ryan Kerr's memorial. That's it.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else? Mayor?
Yes, thank you. So I also would like to start with Ryan Kerr's memorial. I think our fire department did an amazing job. A very good send off for somebody who was extremely important in this community, and I thought they did themselves proud, and they did Ryan's memory proud as well. So I thank all of them for that, and it was a great turnout. Quickly, I'd like to talk about the last meeting of the wildfire Fire Smart Committee. They're ready for the trade show. We got a great presentation from Terry and Devin with respect to the educational component that'll start moving forward here right away. They'll really kick it off at the trade show, starting to get the elementary kids lined up, their elementary schools lined up for some training and understanding of what Fire Smart is all about. They're getting ready to start doing home assessments and ignition assessments around homes. They'll be signing people up. They're looking to do some sorts of training, one-on-one discussions, obviously, at the trade show. I asked them to set up at least one workshop where they could actually sit in a classroom with people who are interested and really help them to understand the Fire Smart process. And so Terry was looking to set that up. So the education component of this is really important. They finished out at the access down to Parker Lake So kudos to Rick and his team over at Radar Road. They did as good a job as I think they could do, based on the fact that it was a little late in the year and it's a little muddy there. But I think now that that's cleared up, that will dry, and eventually we'll get to the point where we can burn those piles. And I think our fire department, along with wildfire, will determine the best way to handle that and deal with that. So a great job for those guys out there. So looking forward to moving forward with all of this education. Thanks.
Okay, Councillor Souls.
Municipal finance, I made a trip to Victoria this week. I can confirm that the sea level is still where it has been on my other trips. I can confirm that there's grass that grows there earlier than here, and next time I'm taking my cows with me. The flowers are pretty and they smelled nice. And anyway, it was pretty good that way. Municipal finance is, as you know, a relatively boring subject, but I always enjoy a certain part of it, because when you start, I often tell people that the politics that we face in the world, politics and our identity are linked very closely, our national identity and so on, and we link them closely. But economics doesn't know the boundaries of the political entities that define us. And so it's always very fascinating listening to a geopolitical discussion that goes on at those, and just the geopolitical presentation this time focused essentially on the relative impossibility of cutting ties with any of the national production systems. Any product in this world that's produced is usually made up of components and bits and pieces from every part of the world. So the idea of disinvesting yourself from your neighbors, and that is ridiculous from an economic point of view. So very interesting discussion in that regard. Municipal finance itself is still growing in its, and the credit rating that it holds is still a AAA credit rating in a province where we have an A+, about to be an A- credit rating. And of course, it's because of the fact that they've got a captive audience that all of the municipalities in the province are required to have balanced budgets. So it's actually a pretty good place to attract bond money from various parts of the world. And so the service is growing and so on. I had one discussion at that relative to our own, and I baited the MFA, sorry, I can't remember his title, and said that we really appreciate MFA in our area, but we don't use them. And he said, and asked why not. And I said that their function is one that, in a sense, they provide a backstop, a financing mechanism for all the municipalities in the province. But by doing so, they also create a competitive environment in the regular financial world that would rather deal directly with communities. And so that's their problem, not ours. But I'm still glad you're there as a municipal finance organization. So anyway, the organization is healthy, and the money is going out in ever increasing ways and forms and for different purposes in municipal growth. And there's no default happening at this point. It's working well.
Good. Thanks very much for taking the time for going down to Victoria. I know it's a hardship. Appreciate the time away. Okay, so April 16th, I attended the Environmental Action Committee meeting. The committee engaged in an open and thoughtful discussion about its current role, the capacity for action, and the overall value it provides. And I wanted to share this discussion with council. My report's a little bit longer than usual, but I figured it was a short meeting and you wouldn't mind too much. So concerns were raised about the disconnect between the ideas being generated at the committee and or the NRM's ability to carry them forward, particularly when it comes to developing waste diversion plans for local businesses. While the committee has access to strategies and reports, members acknowledge that without the time, resources, or clear mandate, implementation is difficult. Despite the longstanding personal and community efforts to improve environmental practices, progress feels stalled. The absence of tangible outcomes or feedback makes it difficult to justify continued time and energy. Several felt that the committee is often only engaged when there's a report to review rather than being actively involved in shaping solutions. Others shared reflections on broader community struggles, noting that many residents are dealing with basic needs like food and housing. In such cases, environmental action like waste diversion can feel like a secondary option. There was also discussion around past emergency events where large amounts of reusable goods were discarded. This highlights a missed opportunity for promoting reuse and supporting programs like the Share a Shed. The value of school partnerships was also discussed, highlighting the importance of maintaining a connection between the committee and the local schools to encourage environmental awareness and student-led initiatives. Building on this relationship could strengthen engagement and help foster long-term community change. Also of note, the Visitor Center is preparing to open for the upcoming season. As a part of the reopening, efforts are being made to introduce waste diversion at the visitor site. So this will help promote environmental awareness among visitors and encourage more sustainable practices during the tourism season. April 22nd, I attended the Lamplighters Board meeting. On the 23rd, the BC Rural Health Network Board meeting. And on the 25th, the Council Lobbying Strategic Planning meeting, which I thought went really, really well. And I'm looking forward to hearing from the rest of the people that were unable to make that day. And then I too attended Ryan's memorial service on the 25th. Yeah, that's my report. Okay, seeing no other reports then, business outstanding? Seeing none. Is there any notice of motion? No. Okay, taking us to 12, public news media question and answer period. Any questions around the budget? Priorities set by council? Council business? Any questions at all? Seeing none, I could call this meeting adjourned. By Councillor Enoch, seconded by Councillor Roper. All in favor? Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.